Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a story that, well, it almost sounds made up. It's not your standard cybersecurity tale. It's more about what our sources are calling an institutional pathology.
Yeah, we're talking about huge multi-billion-dollar companies. Think Rockstar Games, Grand Theft Auto creators, Uber, Nvidia, Microsoft, even Jaguar Land Rover, mentioned as sort of the entry point. All of them successfully breached. And not by some, military-grade hacking unit. No, the group allegedly responsible. Teenagers, known as lapses.
Right. And our mission here, for you listening, is to use the really specific case of Arion Kurtaj, probably the most well-known lapses figure, as a kind of diagnostic tool.
Yeah.
We're not really here to judge the crime itself. We want to understand why. Why did systems, supposedly Fort Knox-level secure, crumble? And just as importantly, how did society, the establishment, react when these embarrassing flaws got exposed? And the detail that just kicks the whole thing off, it sets the stage perfectly. You really need to grasp how wild this is. Kurtaj pulled off the huge Rockstar Games hack in September 2022. Get this, while he was under police supervision. Confined to a basic Travelodge hotel room in Oxford.
Yeah.
No fancy gear. He apparently used about 50 quid's worth of stuff. An Amazon Fire Stick, the hotel TV, and a phone.
Just think about that for a second. 50 pounds versus, trillion-dollar intellectual property? That massive imbalance, that's the core of this whole story, isn't it?
Absolutely. That single fact just blows the whole sophisticated cyber attack narrative right out of the water. It forces you to look deeper. It wasn't about technical genius in the traditional sense.
Okay, let's definitely unpack that, because you hear sophisticated attack all the time from companies and in the media, right?
Yeah.
It's convenient. It makes it sound like they were outmatched by some kind of digital wizardry, rather than, basic human error or organizational problems. Exactly, it shifts the blame. But the sources we've looked at are clear. The breaches at Uber, Microsoft, Rockstar, they weren't about finding some secret zero-day flaw in the code. They were more like performances, theatrical performances designed to manipulate people.
Human trust, basically.
Yeah.
Exploiting that.
Precisely. It boils down to social engineering.
Right.
Which sounds complex, maybe, but it's really the oldest trick in the book, just updated for the digital age. It's a con game.
So lapses didn't need some custom-built weaponized software.
Nope. They just needed the person on the other end of the line, the employee, to basically forget their training or panic. They'd often call up pretending to be from IT support, create the sense of urgency. Your account's hacked. We need your password right now to secure it, that kind of thing.
High-pressure tactics.
Totally. And they often paired this with something called SIM swapping. That combination was key.
Okay, for anyone listening who's not familiar, what exactly is SIM swapping? And why is it such a dangerous mix with that kind of social engineering call?
So, SIM swapping is essentially stealing someone's phone number. The attacker tricks the phone company, pretending to be the victim, into moving the target's number over to a new SIM card the attacker controls. Why is that bad? Because suddenly the attacker gets all the victim's texts, including
the two-factor authentication codes.
Exactly. Those codes that every company relies on. Will text you a code to prove it's you. Well, now the attacker gets the code. They bypass that crucial second layer of security without ever hacking the company's network directly.
Wow. So the company might have spent millions on firewalls, encryption, all the tech defenses.
Right. The digital fortress walls might be high and strong.
But the organization itself just kind of opened the main gate and waved the attackers inside, handing over the keys on the way in.
That's a perfect analogy. The failure wasn't the technology. It was, deeper. It was the organizational culture, maybe even a bit of systemic arrogance. Security training often feels like a tick box exercise, right? For compliance. It doesn't always teach genuine skepticism or how to handle manipulation when you're stressed. The tech worked. The human systems failed.
Which brings us right back to Arion Kurtaj, an 18-year-old in that Travelodge, showing this incredible knack for seeing patterns and making things happen. You just have to pause on that. The kind of thinking it takes to turn a hotel TV and a Fire Stick into tools for corporate espionage, it's objectively remarkable, isn't it?
It really is, and that's what makes the system's reaction so telling. What did the institutions do when faced with this undeniable capability? Did they try to understand it? Harness it? No, they contained it. After the legal process, in December 2023, a UK judge handed down an indefinite hospital order.
Indefinite hospital order. That sounds different from a standard prison sentence. What does that actually mean legally in the UK context?
It's a really important distinction. It means he wasn't actually found fit to stand trial in the normal sense, specifically because of his severe autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. So The hospital order isn't punishment for the crime. It's a form of detention based purely on perceived future risk. It's secure psychiatric institutionalization, used when someone's considered a significant danger because of their mental state. He's locked up not because he was found guilty, but because they think he's inherently dangerous.
And what was the specific reason, the justification for locking him away indefinitely?
It came down to a clinical assessment. It noted that he, quote, persistently expressed intention to resume hacking activities immediately upon release.
Yeah, let's just translate that. The young man, who is clearly brilliant at finding security holes, was honest. He said he'd keep doing the one thing he's world-class at, and the system's response to that honesty. Indefinite warehousing. One of our sources really nailed it, calling it institutional pathology wearing a public safety costume.
And it throws up this massive contradiction, doesn't it? The very cognitive traits that were part of the justification for locking him away indefinitely, that intense systematic thinking, the hyper-focus, the pattern recognition. These are the exact skills that the cybersecurity industry worldwide is desperate to hire.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't just theory. Big companies, SAP, Microsoft, IBM, many others, they have specific neurodivergent recruitment programs. They actively seek out people whose brains work like this. They know these individuals often see flaws and patterns that neurotypical people miss. They want these minds. The same kind of mind the UK justice system decided to lock away.
That was the fundamental choice, wasn't it? Cultivation versus containment. Do you try to channel this obvious if unconventional talent towards something constructive like defense? Or do you just try to make the problem, the embarrassment, disappear by locking up the person who revealed it? Society, or at least the institutions involved, chose containment. They essentially labeled the diagnostic tool, the hacker who showed them their weaknesses, as the disease itself, instead of fixing the actual problems he found.
And the irony just keeps hitting you. The core vulnerabilities Kurtaj exposed, the reliance on easily manipulated human trust. The gaps in real-world security awareness, are those fixed?
In many cases, probably not fundamentally addressed. The focus stayed laser sharp on Kurtaj, the individual symptom, rather than the underlying organizational sickness.
If we zoom out a bit, does this fit into any wider patterns? Our sources seem to place it in the context of post-Brexit Britain.
Yeah, there's an argument there, that it reflects a sort of national struggle with identity, maybe an institutional rigidity, a difficulty integrating people who don't fit the standard mold, even if they have valuable, unconventional skills, a tendency to criminalize rather than cultivate.
And historically, this isn't entirely new, is it? There are parallels. The sources bring up the case of the German hacker Boris Floricic, known as Tron, back in 1998.
That's a chilling comparison. Tron was also brilliant, also quite isolated, and he exposed major security flaws in German telecom systems. And his story ended tragically. He died young, officially ruled a suicide, but there's always been questions, disputes. People knew he was under pressure from authorities, from companies he'd embarrassed.
So it's a recurring pattern.
It seems to be. You have these brilliant, often neurodivergent or non-conforming minds who spot massive systemic failures. They get ignored, or worse, criminalized, maybe institutionalized. Tragedy often follows. And the one constant, the underlying problems they expose. They rarely get fixed. The system just carries on. We've been running the same experiment for, over 25 years now, with the same outcome, institutional paralysis.
And the cost. Let's talk about the financial side. Going back to Jaguar Land Rover, mentioned in the sources, the UK government apparently gave them $1.5 billion in bailout funds after breaches that exploited exactly these kinds of human factor vulnerabilities.
Right. Think about the sheer economic irrationality of that. 1.5 billion pounds. Used to patch things up after the failure to subsidize the consequence of the problem. Imagine if even a fraction of that 1.5 billion had been invested beforehand. In proper cybersecurity education, in building pipelines for neurodivergent talent, in programs designed to actually prevent these breaches by using these unique minds constructively.
Instead, the choice was, effectively, subsidize the failure and lock up the whistleblower.
It tells you where the priorities lie, doesn't it? Mitigating embarrassment over actually solving the underlying disease. The punishment wasn't really about the hacking, it was about the revelation, the inconvenient truth he exposed. It's a societal failure disguised as a criminal case.
They shot the messenger, the one person who could clearly see the gaps that their expensive systems couldn't.
Which brings us to that really uncomfortable question that the establishment seems determined to avoid.
What if Arion Kurtaj was basically right? What if the systems he poked at are fundamentally flawed, dangerously so? And what if his statement about wanting to keep hacking wasn't just malice? What if it was actually a kind of plea? A desperate, maybe clumsy way of saying, look, I'm incredibly good at this one thing. Can someone please give me a structure, a purpose, a way to use this skill productively?
That's the potential tragedy here. And the real takeaway for everyone listening, especially younger people with similar talents, is what this whole episode teaches them. It doesn't teach them that hacking is wrong. It teaches them that if you have these kinds of abilities, you better hide them. Never trust institutions. Never be honest about what you can do.
That fear, that enforced secrecy, that's the real long-term security breach resulting from this whole affair, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Kurtaj showed his brilliance, but he's lost his future to indefinite detention. So the challenge maybe for the next generation of sharp neurodivergent minds is stark. Don't just be the next Kurtaj, the one who points out the flaws. Use those amazing brains not just to diagnose how broken things are, but to actually build the solutions, build the ethical frameworks, the talent programs, the institutional reforms that stop this kind of tragedy repeating.
The world doesn't just need exposing, it needs fixing. And maybe those are the minds best equipped to do it, if we let them.